everyone. Today we're going to talk about academic life. Later, we're going to talk about changes in living habits and patterns, unemployment problems, economic recession, and environmental changes. First of all, I would like to talk about changes in living habits and patterns. Because of COVID-19, everybody started to learn how to protect their body, such as wearing a mask, which can protect us from virus. Also, recently, we can't enter some places unless we wear a mask. Another thing about changes in living habits and patterns is using sanitizers. Sanitizers are placed in many places because they help us disinfect our hands. Also, we need to take body temperatures. If our body temperature exceeds 37 degrees, we can't allow to enter some places. Next, we are required to register the personal details. We need to let staff members scan our identity card when entering and leaving a venue. Not everyone takes the same action like Taiwanese or hold the same attitude toward this pandemic. For example, Americans didn't wear a mask at first because they thought wearing masks as serious ill patient. As for in New Zealand, people were not aware of the crisis because the news media in New Zealand didn't focus too much on it. Well, in China, some officers refused to reveal news related to epidemic in the beginning. After knowing changes in living habits and patterns, we're going to take a look at another thing that really impact in our life. That is unemployment problems.
Due to COVID-19 pandemic, most people seldom go out. As a result, many factories were forced to halt production. So many tourist attractions were unfrequented. It also caused an important problem, unemployment. For many employees, their work hours and wages were reduced. They were forced to go on leave without being paid. The worst nightmare for those employees was to be laid off. What about companies? They didn't have enough human resources because of halted production and quarantines. Some companies couldn't take the loss and even go out of business. Next, we're going to take a look at the unemployment rate of 3 different countries and knowing what challenge they're going to face. First, the United States. During the period of pandemic, the US economy has been weakened. According to the chart we can see in May 2020, the pandemic was extremely serious in America, and that about 50% people didn't have a job. Even if the government issued unemployment compensation, this still gave America a big punch. The next country I'd like to talk about is China. It was difficult to know exactly how many people were unemployed in China. Based on the chart, we can see the rate in March is only about 6%, but experts estimated that the number of unemployed people in China was over 18 million in March 2020. Job vacancies were less and less, but job seekers were more and more. The last country I'd like to talk about is Taiwan. Even Taiwan controlled the pandemic well. Unemployment was still a big problem. On the chart, in May 2020, the rate is about 4%, which means there are over 480,000 people were jobless in Taiwan. The government had also issued unemployment compensation. The number of beneficiaries is record-breaking in the past 10 years.
So now, let's talk about economic reception. According to the forecast of the number of international tourists in 2020 released by the UNWTO, the number of tourists expected to grow has also dropped by 20 to 30% due to the epidemic. It will lead to a reduction of 300 to 450 billion US dollars in international tourism revenue. Here are 2 examples impacted by the epidemic. The first one is Taiwan, because we can't go abroad during the epidemic. This has caused many hotels and travel agencies to close. The other example is Japan. Sensoji Temple in Tokyo is a gathering place for people who visit and experience Japanese culture. However, due to COVID-19, there are only few tourists in Sensoji Temple, and the surrounding vendors are almost closed.
COVID-19 seems to be a harmful and horrible pandemic, doesn't it? However, it can actually be beneficial to our environment. First, let's talk about what it has done to our environment. Take air pollution, for example. According to research, Carbon dioxide and nitrogen dioxide decrease because of COVID-19. For instance, in Spain, it decreases by 48%. In Italy, it drops by 39%. And in France, it reduces and even reaches about 54%. In 2020, it declines approximately 36%. In 2019, in a row, and so on. Besides the environment, animals gain benefits from this pandemic. On account of COVID-19, people do less activities, so many animals can live in a place which was occupied by people. A good example is that many wild goats walk on streets freely instead of hiding in mountains in Ladugno. And another is that more and more coyotes take a walk along streets frequently in California. On account of this pandemic might not always do harm to a road. Instead, it can be beneficial in some ways.
From this presentation, we can learn that there were so many negative impacts caused by COVID-19. Although there are some benefits that this pandemic can bring, we still have to try to deal with these problems so that we can make our world a better place. Thank you for listening.